What is going on, YouTube? It is your boy Brian Mark coming at you with another episode on this channel, and in today's episode it is part 4 of Trailer Park to Lambo. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the episode. Let's go. Hello.
There's Nanny.
Hi Nanny, how are ya? What's the matter?
She's just happy to see you. She's happy to see you.
Nanny, I have something to tell you. Guess what, Nanny? I bought you a brand new Toyota Highlander so that you don't have a car that breaks down anymore.
Oh, also.
Confetti. That's confetti. All right, you guys, so on the last episode, I talked to you guys about my wife and how my wife fell on her face, and at the time, she was only a friend, she was my client. She fell on her face and her tooth was really loose. So I said to her, I'm like, you can either, number 1, go to a dentist in Canada, which would cost you $2,500, or number 2, you can go to a dentist in Bali, and it would cost you $500 in Bali to actually get the dental work done, and it would cost you $1,500 for the flight. So I'm like, you can do whatever you want, but those are your 2 options. I was leaving to Bali in 3 weeks' time, and so I said it as a joke. So she calls me the next day, she's like, I booked the flight to Bali. I was like, what? She's like, I booked a flight to Bali. I looked at my homie, I was like, dude, Kirsten booked a flight to Bali. He's like, what? I was like, I know. I'm like, okay, I guess you're coming to Bali. And that was literally how it started. And me and Kirsten continued working together up until the flight to Bali, and I'm actually gonna tell you a hilarious story. So Kirsten and I met each other at a rave, and the only contact that we'd had with each other up to this point was like phone calls, DMs, messages, etc., with me coaching her on how to grow her coaching business. So Kirsten told her mom, I wish she was here to tell her side of the story. She told her mom that she was gonna be going to Bali with me and one of my friends, 2 completely strange men she'd never hung out with before other than at a rave. So she told her mom's like, please don't go, please don't go. But Kirsten's like, I'm gonna go, I need a change, I feel like this is it, I'm going. So Kirsten decided she's gonna come to Bali with me. So me and Kirsten and my friend are in the airport heading to Bali. And we walk up to check in with our bags, and we walk up to the guy, and I give him my passport, and he was like, you can't go to Bali. I was like, excuse me? He's like, you can't go to Bali. I'm like, what do you mean I can't go to Bali? I have a flight right away. My passport's right here. It's like, yeah, but your passport expires in 4 months. He's like, we won't let you leave the country if your passport expires within 6 months, because if something happens when you're down there and your passport expires, you won't be able to get back in. He's like, so you can't go to Bali today. I looked at Kirsten. She had a panic attack. I was like, okay, give me 1 minute. So we went back into the airport and we sat down. And honestly, one of the benefits of being an entrepreneur is the more that you become an entrepreneur, the more that you get good at problem solving. And so I looked at Kirsten, came back, sat down. I'm like, this is the problem. I'm like, number 1, I'm going to Bali. I'm like, I don't know how, but I'm gonna get there. Number 2, you guys have a flight, so it doesn't make sense for you guys to stay. So I'm like, you guys go and I'll meet you there. And she's like, how are you gonna get there? I'm like, I'm gonna figure out how to get a passport right away. And so she literally just went on a whim with my homie, and they got on a plane and they left. And I was just in the airport by myself, and I'm like, okay, now I gotta figure out how to get a passport. So anyways, long story short, Vancouver, you can get a rush passport. It took me 24 hours. 24 hours later, I was on a flight to Bali. I get to Bali, and I want to tell the honest part of this side of the story because, as you guys remember from the last episode, I had broken up with my ex before, meeting Kirsten and starting Peach Dome, etc. And so at this time, this was 4 or 5 months after my breakup, and I was full on into single Brian mode. And single Brian mode meant that I was interested in meeting a new girl every single night. So me, Kirsten, and my friend are in Bali, and we would work all day, and then we would go out at night and we would drink, and I would meet a girl and I would take her home. And that sounds horrible, but that's the truth. I'm just not gonna hide it, whatever. Kirsten watched this happen, okay? And Kirsten was my best friend during this time. And I didn't know this, but Kirsten had a massive crush on me. And so a week into the trip, she calls me and she's out at the bar drinking, and I was working. And she was like, hey, I need you to come pick me up. And I was like, okay, cool, whatever. So I'm like, where are you? She's like, I'm at this bar. So I'm at bar number 1. So I drive on my scooter, I get to bar number 1, I call her. I'm like, hey, I'm outside bar number 1, which took me about 20 minutes to drive to. I'm like, oh, I'm outside bar number 1. She's like, oh, did I say bar number 1? I meant bar number 2. I'm like, I get on my scooter, drive to bar number 2. She comes stumbling out drunk, and she comes gets on my scooter, doesn't have her helmet, She's like driving on the way back. And on the way back, she was like, this is, by the way, like my ex was one of my clients. And so I had a very firm fucking boundary. And the firm boundary was that I do not date clients, period. I'm like, after that shit show, I'm like, I will never, ever, ever date a client. So we're on the scooter on the way back, and she's like, I want to cuddle. And I was like, she hates this story, by the way. It's the only time she's ever been rejected in her whole life. So she's like, I want to cuddle. I'm like, that's not happening. And so we get back to the house, and she's like, I want to cuddle. And I was like, no. And I was like, I'm going to bed. And so she follows me upstairs to my room. And I was like, I'm going to bed. And she's like, I want to cuddle. I was like, absolutely not. And I like slammed the door on her. And I didn't mean to be rude, but I'm like, I was already pissed because she made me come to a random bar, then she wasn't there. And then I wasn't interested in dating or seeing my client. So I just said no. So I just closed the door. She hates that story and remembers it to this day. And she tells me that that's the only time a guy has ever turned her down. Anyways, funny story. So Kirsten saw all the shenanigans of Bali, and I think that like, she did have a crush on me, but by the end of the trip, she's like, this guy, like he's clearly not interested in a relationship with anybody. Like I'm not interested in him either. And so the last night of the trip, we ended up drinking together. And I think it was like a mixture of like, we had a really good time and I had a few drinks and Kirsten had a few drinks. We ended up kind of like going to the bar and dancing and then we started making out. And then I was like, whoa, how did this happen? And anyways, long story short, we spent the night together that night. And I woke up the next morning and I realized, I'm like, oh my God, I just crossed the boundary that I said I was never gonna cross again. And I got up and I like left the room. And Kirsten didn't know that we spent the night together for like 6 months. She found out from one of my friends, Brendan, who like 6 months later was like, yeah, I can't believe you and Brian like hooked up in Bali. And she's like, what? She called me. She's like, did we hook up in Bali? I'm like, yes, we did. I'm like, you don't remember? She's like, no. I was like, oh, that's awkward. Anyways, funny story about me and Kirsten. That's how it started. So she came back to Kelowna. I went back to Calgary, and I was working on my online coaching business. I was still drinking and in single Brian mode. She was back in Kelowna, and her online business started taking off and was in momentum. So she became one of my like testimonials, basically. Like I was always talking about her. She was doing so well. I was always like, look at Kirst, look at Kirst, look at Kirst, look at Kirst. And I was always talking with her, and I was always talking to her. And it got to a point where in mine and Kirsten's relationship, she became like a best friend, and she became the person that I would talk to. Oh, I'm getting emotional now. She became the person that I would talk to like 3 times a day. I would just call her and we would just talk. She would call me, and it was like, this was like every day for months on end. And so one day it was like, I think it was around January, like around a little bit after New Year's, I would say January 30th or so. I called her and we were on the phone. We'd been talking for like 2 hours, and I was like, I love you. And she's like, oh, I love you too. I was like, no, I like love you. And she was like, what? I was like, I think I like love you. Like I like love you more than a friend. And she was like, I think I love you more than a friend too. And I was like, okay. I was like, I guess that's cool. So after that, I started coming to Kelowna every week. It was like every week or every 2 weeks I would fly to Kelowna to surprise her and hang out with her or whatever. I came out here for Valentine's Day. And after spending about $3,000 to $5,000, more than that, actually 10 grand on flights to constantly come out in here and see her, I realized that I just wanted to stay out here. Now at this time, I was still drinking and partying and being an idiot because I'd still like, let's just say my single phase went on for too long. And so I was still drinking and being an idiot. And I remember at the time she was like, I'm not gonna date a guy that drinks. And so I was like, okay, I'll stop drinking for 100 days. So she said that, and then I stopped drinking for 100 days straight, like no drinking, nothing. Like no drinking, no marijuana, absolutely nothing for 100 days straight. And that started momentum. After that 100-day sprint of like not drinking, not doing anything, like I actually got back on top of my fitness. I actually started committing to my goals again, and I started training for a show. That was the summer that I started the Change Lives Make Money Online Trainer podcast in September of 2019. I just had like this massive surge of momentum. Because I'd quit drinking and I was living with Kirst in Kelowna, I realized that I was no longer passionate about running Aesthetic Nation. And so at that point, I made the commitment that I was gonna stop running it. And so I made the commitment to fold the business. So I ended up folding my fitness business, which I had worked on for like literally 4.5 years, to go all in on this like dream, this vision of building PT Domination. So at the time when I was, around the time that I was about to fold my fitness business, there was a guy that I met online, and his name was Tacky Moore. Tacky Moore changed my life. Aesthetic Nation was making about 30 to 50 grand a month, and then PT Domination was making about 30 to 50 grand a month. So this was back in 2019. And I was like, I had my hands in too many pots. I was trying to do too many things at once. I was trying to grow Aesthetic Nation, I was trying to grow PT Domination, and neither one of them were growing at the rate that I wanted to. So I remember I went to a Tacky event, and one of the things that they said was that they're like, you need to kill your darling, which basically meant you need to kill the thing that's been holding you back. You need to kill the thing that's been holding you back. And so I looked at Aesthetic Nation, my fitness business, and I'm like, this is no longer serving me. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. So I called Cole, who was my business partner at the time, and I was like, bro, I'm done with Aesthetic Nation. I'm going to the next company team meeting and I'm folding the business. It's like done. I'm like, I don't want anything to do with it anymore. He's like, okay. Couldn't really say anything. I'm like, I'm the primary shareholder and this is the end of the business. And he was like, all right. So he decided he was going to keep the trainer eyes. I decided I didn't want anything. I literally called all the trainers and I was like, this is the end of our business, goodbye. Which honestly, like, you would think that I felt sadness, but I felt relief when I did that. And that was the opportunity that I had to go all in on PT Dom. So I went all in on PT Dom and I made the commitment that I was at $30,000 a month with PT Dom. I just folded 30K worth of income from Aesthetic Nation. I made the commitment in that moment. I was like, I'm going to hit $100,000 a month and I will do whatever it takes to make that happen. And so I did. I did whatever it took. I started a podcast. I went live 5 times a week on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok when it came out. I never missed. I figured out what everybody else was doing in the space and I did more. The delivery of my program, I made it phenomenal. I just made sure that there was like no kinks in my armor. I made sure that there was like no weak areas in my business. And I did my very best to over deliver. And we started getting clients results. And at some point in my business coaching career, I realized that I had helped I've helped a lot of people across 10K. I was like, I'm gonna count how many. And when I started counting, I counted 56. I was like, I've helped 56 online trainers hit $10,000 a month. And this was about a year into me business coaching. And then I was like, I'm going to keep count. And every single time somebody DMs me that they hit 10K, I'm going to post about it. So I kept count. And every month, it would be 2 or 3 new people that we helped cross $10,000 a month. Every month, it was 2 or 3 new people. Every month, 2 or 3 new people. And like slowly over time, when you start getting results like that, people start paying attention. $10,000 a month is not a small amount of money, and we were doing it on a regular basis. There was like 2 or 3 or 4 more people on a monthly basis that were hitting $10,000 a month. And so I had my level 1 program, which would help you get to 10K a month. And then I had my level 2 program, and my level 2 program was like, once you hit 10K, we could help you like progress and graduate to the next level. And so after working with 100 to 200 clients for the first year and a half of my business, I realized that there was another opportunity. And the other opportunity was like, once people got to $5,000 to $10,000 a month, they've developed a new set of problems. Too many leads, overwhelmed, not enough people working for them, not knowing how to grow to 20K without sacrificing themselves. So I realized there's another opportunity. So I called Cole, I'm like, we gotta start a mastermind. And at the time, like, I didn't even know what a mastermind was. Like, I really didn't know what that meant. But what it became is it became a progression for my program. So it was now you came in for the Change Lives Academy, and then once you hit 10K or you were around 5K to 10K, we took you into the mastermind, and then once you're in the mastermind, now I'm gonna help you scale. And that just became, PT Domination just became everything to me. My client results became everything to me. My podcast was everything to me. It still is everything to me. And I just was all in. And when I first started working with PT Domination and Kirsten, like, I remember telling her that I was gonna hit $100,000 a month, and she was like, you're fucking crazy. She's like, you should set more realistic goals. And she wasn't saying that because she didn't believe in me, but she was saying that because that's an obscene number. She's like, $100,000 a month is wild. I'm like, yeah, but I'm in Tacky's program and this guy's making 500K. I'm like, and he's not smarter than I am. I'm like, I'm just as smart as he is. Like, I've got the capabilities, I've got the skill sets, I've got the knowledge, I've got the energy. I'm like, why can't I do that? Like, he can do it. Like, if he can do it, like, why can't I do it? And so I just set big targets, and I set $100,000 a month. And Kirsten thought I was wild. But then I hit 100K. I hit 100K in December of 2021, $100,000 a month. December 2020, I hit $100,000 a month. And that for me was like, holy shit, there's something here, and there's a level that I didn't even know I could play at. So once I hit $100,000 a month, I was like, oh, it's game the fuck on. I'm like, now it's time to take over. And I just doubled down on everything. I was posting twice a day on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, podcasting, super consistent, never missed with my clients, delivered more value inside of my coaching program than any other coach in the market. PT domination continued to grow. We were living in an apartment when I first started dating Kirsten, when I came out to Kelowna, and I stayed. And then after 8 months, the lease expired. Actually, no, we decided to sell the condo. We moved into a house that was twice the size of it, that had an elevator in it. It was like a townhome with an elevator. The problem was, when I purchased my Dodge Challenger Hellcat, I would have my neighbors complain all the time. And then I would get complaints. I'm like, I want to drive my fucking car to the gym in the morning. And so I would turn on my car, which is like, boom, it sounds like a fucking jet. And I would have neighbors complain all the time. And so I remember one time looking at Kirst when I was in the condo, I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. Like, I don't want to have somebody else governing what car I can use based on what time they're awake. I'm like, we need to get a house. And PT domination was growing immensely at this time. We ended up hitting 1,000 clients. And I was like, I want to get a house. And I was like, if we're gonna buy a house, it's gotta be our dream house, and it's gotta be one where we can host PT Dom events. And she's like, I'm down for that. I was like, okay, sweet. So we started looking, and we were looking around. We ended up looking around five, six, 7 different houses, and the only one that we actually liked was this one. But this one was on the market for $2.3 million, and our budget was $1.9 million. So I was like, it was $400,000 outside of our price range, and I was like, even though this is the one that I want, we can't get it because it's too far outside of our price range, and I'm not willing to, put myself in a super, super tight financial situation just to try to afford a house. So I was like, this is the one we want, but we can't get it, so we're just gonna pause. And we paused for 30 days. Now, up until this point, this was in 2021. This was in June 2021. Up until this point, Cole and I didn't take very much money from PT Domination. And the reason we didn't take very much money from PT Domination is because I was operating under the false belief, by the way, not a real belief, it was a false belief, that the tax man was going to come and knock on my door and take all of my money because I was making so much. Because guys, I was making like $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a month, and I had never made that amount of money before in my life, and so I was scared. Like, there was a bunch of money sitting there, and I was fucking scared. I was like, I don't know what to do with this, and I'm afraid that somebody's gonna come take this from me, so I'm scared. And it's funny, what I actually found out is that they do tax you on the income that you profit, but it's not nearly as bad as you think it is. Because whenever I tell people, like, I made $6 million, they're like, but how much did you pay in taxes? Like, when you make $6 million, it's about like $1 to $2 million in taxes is what you'll pay, but you still have $4 million, so I'm not complaining. Anyways, we hadn't really taken a payout up until like June 2021. And so Cole and I hired a new accountant, and because of that new hire, we were like, we should take a payout. And so I was on the way to meet Cole in Kelowna. He was visiting because he didn't live here yet. On the way to meet Cole in Kelowna, and driving down, and as I'm driving down to meet Cole in Kelowna, I get a call from my realtor. And my realtor was like, yo, B, the house, the one that you want, just dropped by 400K. He's like, it's on the market right now for 1.9. He's like, it just went up, like literally 30 seconds ago. And I was I was literally driving, Kirsten was in the passenger seat, and I didn't even look at her. I was like, put in an offer. He's like, what? I'm like, put in a fucking offer right now. So he drafts up the offer, sends it to me, I sign it virtually, and he puts in the offer. And I ended up getting the payout, and my realtor called me back. He's like, hey, somebody else also just put in an offer. He's like, is there any higher that you're willing to go? I was like, do 1.95. So he offered 1.95. And they sent a message back, and they're like, done. And just like that, we landed our dream house. And that was like a surreal feeling to me, because this is like a mansion. This isn't a house, this is a fucking mansion. 6,500 square feet, 3 levels. It's got its own pool. It's got like a courtyard in the front and a pool in the back. It's on the top of, a mountain in West Kelowna. And it's not a small house. And I'll be honest, I was like shook, I was like, holy f***. Like, this is like, I grew up in Forest Lawn. Like, I lived in a trailer park. I was addicted to drugs. And I've been grinding so fucking hard with my head down and just like literally working. When everybody else was talking, I was fucking working. When everybody else had an opinion about me, I was fucking working. It's like you couldn't, like, it doesn't matter what I was doing, I was working, I was grinding. Because that's what I was good at, you know? That's what I wanted to do. And getting the house, I remember it was a stretch for us to get the house. And I told Kirsten, I'm like, this means that there's no surrender. Like, this means that there's no going back. This means that the only way is through. And that, you know, I need to do everything in my power every single day to make sure that I'm pushing myself to be the best that I can be, because this means there's no way out. Like, we get this house, there's no way out, it's all in. And that's just what it became. And so we got the house, secured it. Everybody thought it was a rental. Nobody fucking believed that it was actually my house. People were talking shit like crazy. Then we actually moved in. After moving in, we threw our first event. We sold out in 48 hours. There was like 40 tickets. We sold out in 48 hours at 2K USD per ticket. Next event, we threw at the house. We sold out in 24 hours. Next event, we threw for Pete Dom, which was like, you know, I think it was a few months ago. We sold out in 4 minutes. We got Phil Heath, 7-time Mr. Olympia, to come speak at the event. And Pizza Domination has just grown exponentially since. And the level of success that I've achieved now, to be able to really like reflect on all of the stuff that's led up to this, has been a really cool experience for me. And I hope you've enjoyed it too. But to be able to look back and see, like 9 years ago, when I was literally an addict living in a trailer park, to like now being a millionaire living in a mansion, is fucking wild. So let's talk about the Lambo, because it's called Trailer Park To Lambo. I've always wanted a Lamborghini, and it's been on my vision board, probably just like you. There's a lot of men that listen to this that have Lamborghinis on their vision board. It's been on my vision board for a very long time, and I just wanted one, you know? And when people ask me, like, why'd you want a Lamborghini? Because I fucking want one. I don't need an explanation. Fuck you. So I wanted a Lambo. And I had, like, you know, for the last year, the business has been making $600,000 to $700,000 a month. And for me, like, my take home from that is like 100 to 150 grand a month. And so for the last year, we've been doing really well. And I could have bought a Lambo at any point, but I just didn't feel like it was like the right time. I also, like, when I applied for Lambo financing the first couple times, before I got my Hellcat, I applied for a Lambo and I got denied because I was not taking a lot of money out personally. I was keeping a lot of it in the business. So on paper, personally, I didn't make enough to qualify. So when I applied, I didn't get it. So I went for the SRT. I got the SRT, the Hellcat. And this year, one of my homies, Taj, came down to Kelowna, and me and him were sitting down, and he's like, so, like, why haven't you gotten the Lambo yet? And I was like, you know, like, just like, I need to save up more, and I want to do this, and I want to do this, and I want to do this. He's like, but, like, could you afford to get one? And I was like, oh yeah, like, easy. He's like, then why don't you go and get one? And I was like, well, you know, this and this and this. And he's like, dude. He's like, how many people will ever get the opportunity to buy a Lamborghini in their life? He's like, and you have it, and you're not taking it. He's like, this is also something that you've said that you've wanted forever. He's like, so why don't you just do it? And I honestly sat on that conversation for like 2 weeks. I didn't really like take action after that conversation. I was like, whatever. But after he left, I was like, this guy, I'm gonna go get a Lambo. And so I drove to August Motorsports in in Kelowna, and I looked at what they had, and they didn't have something that was like within the range that I was willing to spend. The max that I was looking to spend was $400K, and the only Lambos they had at August were like $600, $700. So I was disappointed, and then I was like, there's Lamborghini Vancouver. So I looked at Lamborghini Vancouver, and I found a Huracan that was unreal. And you guys saw the trips to Lamborghini Vancouver. If you're a loyal YouTuber, you fucking saw, right? You saw the shit that went down. Went to Lamborghini Vancouver, first time, got denied, they weren't fucking open, even though their website said that they were. We're not gonna talk about that right now. It's all good, Lamborghini Vancouver, I forgive you if you watch this. Came back a week later, and I secured the fucking Lamborghini. And right now, it's in my garage. Her name's Dorothy. I drive her in the winter because I'm a gangster. And it's super cool to think that 9 years ago, I lived in a trailer park, and now I have a Lambo. So I think that to wrap this whole story up, first of all, I just want to say thank you, because if you have watched part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, then you really do have like a deep look at like who I am as a person, because this is just like me having a conversation with you. There's no script, nothing. It's just like, this is like unfiltered Brian. So I also want to I think the biggest reason I'm really passionate about content is I truly do believe that any motherfucker could do this. Anyone. Nick could do it. Jax could do it. Anyone. And I think that over the course of the last few years, I've been able to help 8 of my students break $100,000 a month in their own coaching business. And $100,000 a month is not a fucking small amount of money. And I've been able to help 260 plus online coaches cross $10,000 a month. And that's not a small amount of money. And so my thing is that like, you can do anything you set your fucking mind to. And I think that too many people living in a small box for their entire lives because they're afraid of other people's opinions. And the other people's opinions that they're afraid of are fucking sheep, losers, sitting behind their computer in their fucking parents' basement, fucking dressed up like a troll, just commenting on their keyboards. And you're not pursuing your goals because of their opinion. Or maybe it's your mom's opinion, or your dad's opinion, or your brother's opinion, and you want to go after that goal or that dream or that ambition that you have, but you're afraid that they're going to say that you're putting your university degree to waste, or that you're shaming the family because you're not going after what you want, or that's dumb, there's no money in that, and so you end up not pursuing your passion because of something that your family said. Maybe it's your fucking friends. You want to work on your goals, you want to pursue your goals, but then the people that are in your life are like holding you back because they're inviting you out drinking, partying, doing drugs, etc. But at the end of the day, like, the reason that I've been able to achieve, this is the truth, the reason that I've been able to achieve the level of success that I have achieved, going from trailer park to Lambo, is I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks about me. Not even my wife. I love my wife. I don't give a fuck what she thinks about me. Because at the end of the day, I know exactly what it is that I'm here to do in this planet. I'm here to change the fucking world. I'm here to make an impact. I'm here to impact billions of people. And I will spend every last fucking day of my life in pursuit of that goal. And anybody that has anything negative to say about that is more to do with them than it does to do with me. I don't give a fuck what sheep think. I'm trying to be a wolf. I'm trying to be the best. I'm trying to be phenomenal. I'm trying to be a winner. And winners don't focus on losers. Losers focus on winners. And so I don't care what people think about me. I don't. And because I don't care what people think about me, I'm willing to be fucking audacious. I'm willing to go all in. I'm willing to be loud. I'm willing to be consistent. I'm willing to say shit that most people aren't willing to say, because I'm not afraid of your opinion. I'm not afraid of anybody's opinion. The only thing I give a fuck about is like me and my own and fucking getting it and taking care of the people around me and helping the other people around me win and being a good person in the process. And anybody that doesn't see that is fucking blind. And my goal and your goal in life should be to set a fucking target that you want to hit, like set some sort of like goal that you'd like to accomplish, set some sort of place that you would like to end up, set some sort of target for where you want your life to go, and then don't let anything get in the fucking way of that target, and literally be willing to move mountains. And that's, so let's backtrack for a minute. I told you guys that before I went to Bali, I got stopped at the airport. And when I got stopped at the airport, I ended up staying in Vancouver for an extra day while I had to get my rush passport. And when I stayed in Vancouver for an extra day, I wrote a post, and I didn't plan on doing this, but I'm gonna do this. So the title of the post is, I'm either gonna be a multi-millionaire or I'm going to be homeless. 3rd time's a charm on the trip to Bali. Oh man, this has been a long 4 months. I'm in the airport right now, on my way to Bali. I'm actually through customs, sitting in a bougie lounge, enjoying my final hour in Canada before I fly across the ocean. I got denied at the airport Sunday, which most of you don't know. What most of you don't know is I actually was supposed to fly to Bali 4 months ago. One day I had a panic attack, booked a flight to Bali to escape my current life, and booked it for 24 hours from the time I had my panic attack. At the time, my ex and I were fighting a lot, and I just wanted to figure it out so bad, but I couldn't, so I was just gonna run. I spent the next 30 days, I ended up not going. I spent the next 30 days trying to rekindle the spark of my relationship, but at that point, it was too late. I was on the phone with one of my new clients and I literally said to him, I would rather fucking die than work for somebody else again. I'm either going to be a multi-millionaire or I'm going to be homeless. I'm the type of person that plays at full speed. Everything I do, I'm all in. I'm either all in or I don't try at all. I don't believe in second chances. If it didn't work out the first time, there was a reason. I don't believe in, I don't know, I'll think about it. You either know or you don't. I don't believe in an average life. I believe in a phenomenal one, and I'm willing to settle for nothing less. Canceling my flight to Bali 4 months ago was me playing all out for my relationship, and it didn't work out, so I'm out. All in or all out. Getting denied at the gate the other day, I had to make a choice. Am I going to fly home to Calgary, or am I going to use my creative power to make my way into Bali? All in or all out? I'm all in. And now I'm sitting here in this bougie cafe reflecting on the decision I made to go all in. I've gotten 2 new PT Dom clients in the last 48 hours. I got to spend some good time with my friends, and now I'm on my way to Bali to see some of my homies. This flight is also a pivotal moment for me because here I am with the power to make another choice. All in or all out. I have a vision of running a multi-million-dollar online fitness business with Team Aesthetic Nation, and I've had it since I started. And you might be thinking, Brian, why do you need millions of dollars? I'll tell you why. Because every single person that I work with, I change their life. I give them better habits, a more positive mindset, and enhanced quality of life. Now I know that in order for one person to make a real change in their life, that they have to invest in themselves. So what if, as a collective, we impact millions of people in the world, not just for this generation, but generations after that? So yes, I am committed to becoming a multimillionaire because I know that the impact I can have on one person's life and make the decision to invest in me and my company. And I will fight with every last breath in my body to make that impact that God gave me, the vision, in my reality. I am all the way fucking in. Bye-bye Canada, I'll see you in 3 weeks. For now, it's time to get present. There is no going back now. I'm all fucking in. I wrote that post in 2018. And I was gonna be a multi-millionaire or I was gonna be homeless. And we fucking made it.